Hello, everyone, and welcome to D2C Dialogues. Today, we have with us Avnish Anand, co founder and COO of CaratLane. Welcome to the show, Avnish.
Thank you for having me here, Tesh, and very pleased and excited to be here.
Before we move ahead, let me read out an overview of what CaratLane, a Tanishq partnership, is all about. CaratLane, India's first omni-channel jewelry brand, was founded in 2008 with a simple but courageous objective to make beautiful jewelry accessible, affordable, and forever wearable. With a strategic investment from Titan Company Limited, CaratLane is now partners with India's largest retail jeweler, Tanishq. The partnership aims to work towards a common mission to offer customers beautiful jewelry and a distinctive shopping experience that fits today's values and lifestyles, enabling CaratLane to grow as India's 21st century jewelry brand. With this background, Avnish, can you delve into the initial concept that drove the creation of CaratLane?
So I'll tell you quickly, there were three things. Okay. One is that Mithun comes from a jewelry background. His family has been in jewelry for 7 generations. And they run 2 jewelry businesses, very high end. So he understood the jewelry business really well. So 2 things came out of it. One, that there was nobody who was offering great jewelry at the sub 30, sub 40K price points. Everybody in India was focused on 1 lakh plus. So there was a clear opportunity over there to, make it something which people could wear every day and more people could wear it. So that was one. Second, the business model was also broken because everybody who used to have this very capex intensive businesses, open a mega store, put so much inventory, have 20 sales people. And it was not the right efficient way to run business. So he could clearly see that model was broken. And because he studied and worked in the US, he saw the early onset of digital businesses in the US, including Blue Nile, etc. So he learned from that there was a way to use the digital methods to build a better business model to reach more people. So the combination of these 3 things, right? A gap in the lower price points, a digital opportunity, and a broken business model were the 3 main things which led him to think about starting a business like this. And then luckily he also got in touch with Gopal, who was a technology person. So then together we decided to start it. Initially, the focus was only on solitaires because that was what was happening in the US. But before we launched, we did a survey and we quickly realized that we couldn't just sell solitaires in India because the market was not ready for it. And which is why we also started, we added jewelry to our portfolio before we launched.
Okay. The first question that comes as an Indian consumer, and we are talking about 2008 when, CaratLane was started, that this is a category where people want to touch and feel.
Yes.
And the business model is antithesis of, the way India shops as far as jewelry is concerned. What was the confidence and the main reason that, this category, if taken online, would be a success? You could have anyways, expanded offline as well.
See, initially, like I said, the early focus was on solitaires, and we had seen the success of Blue Nile because solitaires is a very, specification-driven product. There's nothing to see in a solitaire because, you get the exact dimensions of the GIA certification, which vouches for the purity and quality of the stone also. So a lot of people actually are able to buy solitaires without seeing it otherwise also. Because if you go to a jewelry store also, they don't have any inventory. Even if you go to a Tanishq or a Malabar or a Kalyan, the big jewelers also, they will have 20, 30, 40, 50 pieces, right? But you want to select, because if you think about the number of sizes, color clarities which are possible, it's a really big number. So any which ways, it's not that people see the physical product and buy when they buy solitaires. Jewelry, I understand, yes. But we had this feeling that because just like every other category was being disrupted in that sense, right? That the new business model was being created because this is around the time when Flipkart and a lot of other businesses were also being set up in India. And obviously we had seen what was happening in the US. So there was this confidence that this could be done if we could solve the problems, including the problem of touch and feel through great imagery and, more transparent information and with obviously a return exchange policy as well. And there was, over a period of time, or we also had this thing that at some stage we will also have to build some physical pieces But the business model was not going to be, like a typical retailer ki go open 200 stores. It was to be a business where digital was to be at the heart of the business. Even today, when we have around 230 stores, our business model, our whole customer experience, everything which we do is still very, very digitally enabled. It's like in our DNA. And that allows us to get a lot of efficiencies, allows us to get a lot of scale, reach, other advantages, which makes our model very different. So I agree that we need touch and feel. We also were aware of it and we have realized it, but we wanted to do it in a way which was digitally enabled, efficient, more effective, not just become another jewelry brand which had 200 stores.
That's nice. Before we come to the physical part of the stores, this piece of online, okay, 2008, you guys started, and you created this brand CaratLane, and then the journey starts. But being still, being an online brand, what were the impediments that you had faced during the initial years, and from an online
Everything.
perspective, and how did you overcome that?
See, it was I think one other thing which I should have added to your previous question was that sometimes ignorance is bliss. I think I can at least speak for myself that I didn't know how hard it was going to be, which is possibly one of the reasons why I joined also. Had I known better, I would have possibly not joined. So sometimes that happens in life, right? You don't know how hard it is going to be. It was, I'll tell you how hard it was. It was very, very hard to get customers for all the reasons we spoke about. It was extremely hard to get employees because nobody, while I thought it's a good thing and we should do this, but nobody else wanted to join. We wanted to get more people like me into the core team, but nobody was willing to join. Even for other roles, it was very, very hard to even hire. And then the whole ecosystem. See, today, if somebody wants to start a e-commerce business, they can start literally in one day. It's like a plug and play thing, right? You get Shopify. There are so many logistics companies which you can just literally plug into your system, right? Which have ready-made APIs which can just plug into Shopify or Magento.
Yeah.
Payment gateways you can get in like 2 minutes. Everything can be set up. There are service providers for imaging. Literally everything. In that time, nobody was ready because nothing was available. And the moment you said jewelry, then even if somebody had 1% interest, that would become 0%. So, we actually started building the business in 2007. And a lot of people ask me this question, ki ek saal kya cheez lagne laga, right? Like what took you a year to launch this? The reason is because it was so hard. You didn't have a payment gateway. We had to actually give an FD to HDFC Bank to get the payment gateway. It took like, I don't know how many meetings to convince Blue Dart to start shipping our jewelry. We didn't have Magento or Shopify, so we actually were building on this thing called OS Commerce, which took really, really long. So everything, today what is a given, right? Because you have it. Nothing was available back then, and we had to literally convince or build on our own. And the fact that it took 1 year to start, I think is testimony to how hard it was.
So, the digital infrastructure was not there way back in
nothing.
2008, 9. And that was the major impediment you had.
No infrastructure. The business ecosystem for a digital business was not in place, including, logistics and banking and everything, basically.
Okay. And from there, you evolved and, built this brand. At what stage you decided that, now is the time to go offline, or you had always had this strategy that
thing had been in our mind because, we used to look at Blue Nile a lot, and Blue Nile also had this concept called web rooms, which were offline things. And even in 2008, we had started to think of a store model which would not be like a regular business. And we had started speaking to people. Obviously, it needed a little money and it would have taken some time. So it took a while for us to do that. But I think from 2012, 13 onwards, we started doing that. In fact, I think our first offline thing started in 2012. So it took a little while, but it was always there in our mind that we should have something to, enable the trial and touch and delivery. And also because, back then, digital business were also considered very unsafe by customers because you would worry that they would take our money and run away.
Yes.
Even from a brand building and trust building point of view, a physical establishment was needed. There used to be customers in Chennai who would say, "Aapka office kidhar hai?" They would come to our office to see if these people are, are there some Kenyan fraudsters, or they generally have a business or not. So from that point of view also it was needed, but now also for all the other reasons we said, right, that it enabled trial, touch and feel. How would we do our retail took a lot of time to figure that out. And obviously people would only come and open stores once they also saw that the business was at a certain level. So that also took some time, right, before people were willing to partner with us to open stores. So I think it took a while, but it was always in the back of our mind that at some stage it will be needed, and we were open to it. It was something which was very clear, at least.
So now taking a step from a brand perspective of CaratLane, how did you find it difficult to position CaratLane once because initially you pitched for an online brand and then subsequently you shifted offline and you gave the reasons why, and any D2C brand has to go offline for growth perspective. But I'm talking from a marketing perspective. Both the channels were different. And what kind of marketing strategies did you apply? Were they same for both, or because both of them were at a different stage? Online was already established a couple of years back, and then you shifted to offline. So can you talk to us about the marketing strategies that you implemented for both the mediums?
See, actually for the longest time we would do a very terrible job of it, because the organization was divided as two organizations: online business and retail business. So there was a separate marketing team, obviously a separate sales team, a separate merchandise team, and there would be a lot of fighting also. When you would run a promotion, the online guys would say, let's run short-term promotions because then we can create a little FOMO and people will buy. The retail team would say that, it will take 1 week for a customer to even know that there is a promo. So how can we run a 3-day promotion? Let's run a 2-week promotion. And it needs to happen over the weekend, for example. Online, obviously, most marketing was done digitally. In retail, we would do a lot of ATL, BTL kind of activities. So it was completely two separate organizations, literally. But when COVID happened, and actually this is the best thing which happened because of COVID, and we realized that now this organization cannot run like this, because there's too much wastage, which sometimes you need like some external reason to give you that push, because otherwise everybody says everything is fine, right? It's working like this. Why do we have to change?
Yeah.
So we could see the potential of really integrating the two channels tightly, but there was no strong push and strong drive to make it happen. We were just happy the way things were. But when COVID happened, we realized that now this needs to change. So then we said, boss, now there's only one team for merchandise, one team for marketing, and we have to integrate the channels completely, even from the website and everything. And from that point in time, everything changed. So now everything is done digitally in terms of marketing, most of it. Even when you run brand and all, you do a lot of OTT and YouTube and Instagram. But we then started measuring everything, that if I have to spend 1 rupee, what is the best return which I can get on it? What really drives demand? And we have created a full, actually, even for a stores business, we have a digital funnel. So we have a measurement that how much demand is needed, which is not just measured in terms of footfalls. There are lots of other parameters. And that is a goal for the marketing team, that even if they're using digital methods, they have to create a certain amount of demand for every store, every city, every pin code, to make sure that they are able to deliver on their revenue targets. In fact, the way we set targets even for our stores is more focused on experience and conversion and repeat rate, and less on revenue. Because we say, let's one team make sure that enough demand is created. You focus on the operational part to make sure that the customer experience and conversion is great. So now everything is done pretty much digitally for online or offline. And everything is just focused on making sure that whichever channel we use, the journey starts online for a customer. Even customers who buy in the store, almost 90% of them start their journey online, and we can track that. So the point is that let people start the journey online, let them browse online, let them discover online, let them shortlist online, and then whichever channel is needed for them to convert, whether it is going to a store, whether it is going for try at home, whether it is buying online, whether it is doing an assisted conversation with somebody, or whether it's doing the live video sales channel, which we have called C Live. Let's just get the business conversion. So the metric which we focus on is business conversion. Wherever it converts, it doesn't matter. And which is why, then marketing just focuses on that overall business conversion and making sure that enough demand is created at every pin code. So that's how the whole organization was reoriented. And this is what we have found to be very, very effective, because what it happens that there is less wastage in marketing, because every rupee Kelly you fight, is it creating demand? Is it leading to revenue from this pin code? If I'm spending 10 rupees on this activity, when you start measuring everything from a digitally demand for a store at a pin code level, it's very easy for you to quickly figure out whether every activity works for you or not. So you can quickly say, this doesn't work, let's stop doing it. And it's not that we don't do any BTL, ATL, we do that, but that also gets measured very, very objectively. And if it doesn't give it any benefit, then we don't do it. So now the marketing thing is that do whatever is right to create demand for every pin code, whether it is digital, ATL, BTL, it doesn't matter. Demand should happen within a certain cost requirement. So now there is no rule saying कि आपको यही करना है. आपका KRA or metric clear hai, or whichever way you deliver that is what the marketing team has to do.
I think this is a wonderful insight, from a marketing KRA or a objective perspective. Deliver demand at a pin code level.
Yes.
And this is where, it's like, elections nowadays or over the last few years, that every booth level, management has to happen. So this strategy of creating demand at the pin code level is an awesome strategy. But how do you manage this seamless transition of your customers from, online browsing at a pin code level to the offline purchase at a retail store, the whole cycle? And because there can be cart drops, in online. Similarly, I may decide, okay, I like this design and I will go, but then I don't have for XYZ reasons, I may not go to the offline store and purchase. Now, how do you manage this transition? Because you said that 80-90% of your customers have already experienced online.
See, one thing which we do is that marketing and store opening is very, very tightly integrated, which means you open stores only where you can see strong demand. And then because you have a store over there, you know that I can now build on this demand also, because I already have good demand. And now my conversion will open because of opening a store. So you never have a situation that you are trying to increase demand where your conversion is bad because you don't have a store. And you never open a store where you don't have demand and therefore you struggle for revenue. So that is one big problem which we have now kind of fixed and we have fully aligned, which is why sales and marketing teams rarely fight, because they never are in a situation where there is this mismatch. Okay, that is one. Second, that every planning, which is, when you plan inventory, for example, then you plan inventory in the city and you plan inventory in the store depending on what people browse and buy. So there is better prediction, obviously. The next thing is that, the handshakes. Like I said, we want everybody to first come to the website, right? So there are a lot of people whose job is just to study that why people who are browsing and showing a lot of intent, they don't buy. So there is a team which is just studying that all the time. So they obviously come up with a set of problems and reasons why people are not going to the store or not buying. And it's not that you can fix it completely. But what happens is that today, if you say that, okay, there were 100 people who had very high intent who were living in Powai and only 1% went to the store. But next time when you measure it after a quarter and you say, no, now 2 people went to the store, then you know that there is progress happening on that problem. And we are becoming better at solving either the friction or the enablement or the nudging of a customer to make sure that more of this high intent customer on the website is able to transact. So, there is enough problem finding which is happening constantly and a constant measurement, whether that handshake between the multiple channels, the demand generation method and the conversion method is constantly happening. And, there is a lot of audit and so many metrics I can't even, mention, right? Like, there is like, I'll give you an example that somebody, just if you think of a store, right? They get inbound calls when people search for CaratLane or a jewelry store near me on Google, right? Which will lead to inbound calls. So somebody keeps auditing that how many calls came to every store, how many of them converted, how many of them were not picked up immediately, how many of them were not called back within 5 minutes. So you get a sense, right, at a store level. So you will say, okay, this store doesn't pick up the calls on time, which is why they are not converting. So somebody then will go and do either a training or there will be feedback or some other thing to make sure that it gets fixed. Then there is also a process of, okay, if somebody called and they are not moving forward, what is the way to retarget them? So I think, when you have enough people focused on each part of the funnel, using each method of, or rather each way in which you are trying to nudge people into the store, people who are looking at the problem, measuring it, people who are also then looking at these metrics, working with the store, then we hope that we constantly measure our performance and we keep working on it. It's a lot of detail, I'll tell you, a lot of rigor and detail which you have to do each and every day to make this happen. And I don't say that we are perfect on this, and I don't say that we have solved everything. There's a lot of work to be done. But the good thing is that because there's a lot of work to be done, it means that there's a lot of opportunity still to convert a lot of this demand into business. So which is why we feel very bullish about everything, that there is so much more work which you can do. But that is how there is an obsession to make sure that this handshake just keeps getting better and better and better. In terms of the way you set goals, not just for sales teams, but for marketing teams, product teams, merchandise teams, there has to be a lot of alignment to make sure that everybody's focus is on solving for this. That if 100 people have high intent, if today one person only goes to the store, then making sure that it reaches 3 by the end of the year is how everybody's goal has to kind of align to making this happen. So that's how we have also changed a lot of goals, people for across teams, not just sales and marketing, that everybody focuses on making this happen. So for example, when a merchandiser plans, right, and if we say that, okay, these 100 people had very high intent to browse, but if suppose 30 of them said, we didn't go to the store because my neighborhood store didn't have the designs which I was interested in, then the merchandiser needs to fix this.
Okay, that's that's awesome. Avnish, all this is not possible without the help of technology.
Absolutely.
And so, what role technology has played, and obviously you started online, so it is a tech-based company, having said that. But can you talk about the role of technology in enabling and enhancing this customer experience?
See, the biggest thing which technology does is that obviously it makes things consistent, right? That because you use technology, it works in the same way every time. Technology allows you to track everything, right, which you need. So therefore, you know what is not working well and what is working well. So one is that technology obviously gives that consistent experience, because anything which is automated is a better experience for the customer as compared to something which is done manually, because wherever human beings are involved, there is an element of failure which is inherently there, right? I feel the other biggest advantage which comes from technology is the data, right? Because the more things which you can measure, the more things you can fix and track and monitor and do that. So in our case, and we believe very, very strongly, if you have read about the 538 blog, the gentleman who predicted all the 50 US states collection, and now I can't remember his name right now. He's written this book called The Signal and the Noise. They talk about known unknowns, etc., right? In any data model.
Yes.
Most companies make the mistake that they build systems which can only measure the known knowns. And any good data model to predict the behavior or to understand behavior, there are many unknowns. And because some of these things cannot be measured easily, they don't measure it. We are a little, as in what different. We try and do is that whichever way it has to be measured, right? We have to find a way to measure it, because only through measurement you can improve it. So we are very focused on making sure that if there's any important variable which impacts the business of the customer, we should find a way to measure it. So a lot of technology energy goes into that to make sure that there is better measurement in the system for everything. And what we also do through technology, what has also helped for is that many of the experiences which I wanted to create for customers, we have built those things to make the customer's life better. So a lot of the things which I told about this handshake, it has only happened because of technology. Otherwise, there was no way to make this happen. So I think all the experiential items all the data to improve our processes or the experience, everything, there is some technology which is helping us do that.
From data, this question comes to my mind is how do you use data to personalize the marketing experience? You did mention about the call, the if you call the customer, I just in your store, that if they browse and then you'll have got those problems, the teams realizes the problems and what kind of 5-10 set of problems are there and how you solve those problems. You cannot solve all the problems as you mentioned, but my question here is how do you use data? Then data is a big has a big role to play in this to personalize the marketing experience.
See, let me tell you one thing first, that nobody does any personalization in marketing. People keep talking about personalization all the time.
Yeah.
But nothing is personalized. The only thing which some people have tried to do in some categories is there's a little bit of product recommendation which happens. Because I'll tell you where real personalization happens. Real personalization happens in the family jeweler. Because when you go to a family jeweler, he will remember everything about your last 3 generations, every purchase, and everything in terms of what he recommends, the small changes which he knows you want it done slightly differently, what are all the reasons why you buy jewelry, what are the other occasions which are coming up, they know everything. So the most awesome, incredible personalized experience is provided by family jewelers. And that is the goal which we have in terms of what we want to eventually get to. That can we provide that kind of personalized experience to all our customers across our hundreds of stores at scale. We are nowhere close to that. So if you want to ask me that how do we personalize, I think we do very little of personalization. There are some things which you know about the customer, whatever data points which we have for a customer, new or repeat, based on whether they live in a store catchment or not, what product they are browsing, if we have some idea of the occasion for which they are buying. Based on that, some of the communication is altered, but there is very little which you know about the customer really, right? When a customer comes on the website, what is the real occasion? What is the emotion which they want from that purchase? Who are they buying it from? You don't know anything, right? Even in the store, sometimes you don't know a lot of it. So it is not really personalized so much. There is very little personalization based on the data which you have. And which is why I wouldn't say that we do even an average job of personalization. We use data in many other ways, yes, and in some ways which really helps the customer. In fact, for everything which you do in this company, we use data to make sure that there's a more objective decision which is made, but not for personalization of marketing so much.
Dhiraj, this last question on personalization, Avnish, last question on personalization is about influencer marketing. What are your views on influencer marketing and has CaratLane used that? Some insights on that, please.
We do a lot of that, actually, influencer marketing, and I think everybody is doing it, and it definitely helps us in at least getting reach. But I feel that I personally, as a customer, also have never been convinced by an influencer to buy something. Although I have discovered a lot of brands because influencers have posted, and I think that that's what really happens, that you get good reach, but I think it doesn't convince. I have seen that user-generated content actually is more trustworthy, it's more reliable, people find that more believable. So while we use a lot of influencer marketing, but I think what we want to do is to make sure that we make our loyal customers our influencers.
Oh, that's a good, that's the best strategy to have. Let your customers become your advocates, and
yes,
that's the influencers.
Because they can get they have the trust which these paid influencers don't have.
Okay. Now from influencer marketing, let's go to an exclusive tie-up that you have done with, example, Harry Potter. What was the idea and why Harry Potter and CaratLane?
So it's actually not just with Harry Potter, but a lot of the other characters. Like, in fact, yesterday we just launched Minions, and before that we have had Peppa Pig and many of those other characters. I can't recollect all the names. The Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
And there are more in the pipeline. See, we have a very big kids jewelry business. It's a very important part of our business. And we saw that there was a clear opportunity to create nice jewelry, and there was a demand for that in the market. And which is why we got into all of these partnerships, because we don't want to do anything which is not legally correct, that you do this without having a proper partnership and a proper the IP, etc., is used in the right way.
Yeah.
And it's been a good partnership so far. Many of these things have done really well. And which is why we continue to keep finding the other characters which can work for us, and to continue to build beautiful jewelry around it. Harry Potter, in fact, is one very unique thing which appealed to not just young people and children, but even to a lot of adults. So that way, it was very, very interesting, and it continues to do really, really well.
Yeah. How has this, helped the image of CaratLane? Does it add to?
Yeah. I'll tell you. The heart, one thing which I said, right, that we are at digital at heart, right? The other thing which is very, very fundamental to this company is design. If you ask me how has the brand been built, the brand has been built on design and experience. If you ask 100 customers who buy regularly from CaratLane, why do they buy from CaratLane? They will tell you 70% of them will tell you design. So design is that important. And our people, which is why people keep coming back and keep buying, and they wear it, right? That's what we want our people to do. So from that point of view, these products have been very well received, and they continue to highlight to people that we are always looking at ways to bring more interesting, beautifully designed jewelry to our customers, and give them more reasons to buy for themselves, to gift jewelry, to wear it for different occasions. So you keep enhancing the catalog in that sense, right? That there are more and more reasons to buy jewelry, and more reasons to gift jewelry, and more reasons, more occasions to wear jewelry. So I think that's where it fits in, right? There are certain, I'm sure there are occasions in your life where you want to wear something like Harry Potter.
Yes.
And that's what happens. So in that sense, I think there is very good feedback from people that yes, there is definitely need for something like this, and it fits into the life of our customers. And actually there's demand for more such things.
Our customers, who is a typical CaratLane customer?
I think everybody who wants to wear jewelry every day is a CaratLane customer.
Okay. So because Harry Potter, I know my daughter talking about it, about this thing. And I have personally experienced CaratLane, and it was a nice one. Having said that, we will move to the penultimate session of our discussion, Avnish. And this is about the industry. Today, more and more players are entering this category, and online jewelry has become something which has become suddenly or overnight very much attractive. The industry was always attractive, but I'm talking especially about the online play.
Yes.
How do you see number one the scenario today from a D2C perspective in jewelry, and then subsequently CaratLane's strategy vis-a-vis that? So first we'll hear you about how do you see the environment today from a D2C jewelry category perspective.
See, when so many people get into something, actually the customer wins, because everybody has to do a better job on design, experience, the store experience, the overall customer experience, because otherwise you cannot survive. So competition in a way is great. So the first thing which will happen from this competition, and I'm not just talking of the new players, even the existing players have to keep upping their game, right? Their experience, their designs, everything. So one is that the customer is going to see a lot of innovation, a lot of great designs from the industry as a whole, which will make the overall choice very appealing. Because, as an industry also, especially in the price points we compete in, we are not just competing with ourselves, we are competing with a lot of other products. Because when somebody wants to buy something for an anniversary or a birthday,
yes,
they are not just looking at jewelry, right? At least for the price points at which we operate, they are looking at watches and handbags and travel and lots of other things. So the better the jewelry industry does overall, at an overall level, we get a higher share of wallet. right? We take business away from the other categories. So there is good competition will make all of us improve our offering to the customer and allow the jewelry industry to get an even bigger share of this everyday jewelry and the share of wallet of the customer, which is going to be great. The second thing is that actually the jewelry industry has been behind most other categories in terms of digital and omni experience, right? And generally being more organized in that sense. So everybody catching up will really help us, right? Because the ecosystem was very bad for jewelry, right? Nobody, like I told you, right? Courier companies and logistics companies don't look at jewelry so much. So we have a worse logistics infrastructure available for jewelry. So we are at a disadvantage with other categories. Like if you order something on Amazon, you can get it in one day, and anybody can do that. But very few jewelry companies can offer 24-hour delivery. We do that because we have built our own people, etc. So that way, with more companies coming in, the ecosystem for the jewelry industry will also get better, which will help all of us. I think the third key thing is that most of the business happens from first time buyers of jewelry itself. Young people who start working and they start buying jewelry. Initially, they buy for, I think when they get their first salary, we feel everybody buys something for their mom, which is why we are very focused on that. And then you start buying for your girlfriend, your niece, your sister, and all of that. So all these young people want very contemporary, modern looking jewelry. These people use Instagram and social media to discover what jewelry to buy, because they also are influenced by what their peers and other people are buying. So in that sense, the jewelry industry, if it has to appeal to this very, very important demographic, it has to make itself very, very modern, right? In terms of the design, the method of marketing, the method of experience, the method of sales. So from that point of view, it's very important for the jewelry industry to do that. And I think all of us are doing that. So that way, I think the industry is in very good shape because of how demand will be created, how we will become more competitive. And India will never stop loving jewelry, right? Even in bad times, even in COVID times, people buy jewelry. So I think that way we are very sorted. What we are trying to do is to obviously make sure that all the things which we do, we keep increasing that. And the other larger place that we want to transition from being a product jewelry focused company to a solution focused company, because we see that each of the occasions of which people buy, right? How can we make that occasion more joyful and more the experience even better through changes in the way we can enhance the experience of buying, the post-order experience, the packaging, and many other pieces, so that people have such, not just the jewelry for that occasion is great. How can that overall experience for that occasion be so awesome that people start associating those occasions and the celebration of those occasions with CaratLane? So that's the larger brand and business play on which we have been working for the last 1 year, and which is going to be very important for us going forward.
Going forward, now, this would be the penultimate question, Avnish. How do you see CaratLane, evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Looking at the dynamic retail scenario and especially the technology landscape, because that is changing. Tomorrow, somebody may come up with an extremely powerful technology and an idea, and a disruption may happen. Nobody knows. Something that happened in 2007, 8, 9. Again, we can look forward for in the coming years. So how do you see CaratLane evolving in the next half a decade or so?
Some things will never change. Okay. The one thing which will never change is that people will always want to buy beautiful jewelry. So the focus on making sure that the designs and the catalog are always awesome will never change, right? Technology will help enhance the experience. Technology will give you more data to make better decisions, but technology will not make the designs. I'm still waiting for technology to come up with a way to make greater designs, right? So far, you still need human creativity and human imagination to make great designs.
So ChatGPT has come so far. Designs, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know, because ChatGPT cannot write award-winning advertising copy. ChatGPT can write email. ChatGPT can write regular kind of content. But I don't know whether ChatGPT can write a script of a great movie which will make you cry. I don't know whether ChatGPT can write an ad copy which will make you laugh and love that brand. Possibly it will come someday. But till that time, I think human imagination on some of these areas still rules.
Yes.
The second thing is that, we are never obsessed with technology, that if the technology comes, We should just go and start using it somehow. We always, like I told you, right, we have a bunch of problems which we are very, very aware of, that these are problems which somehow cause the customer not to buy, right? So we always say that, can any of these technologies solve these problems or not? If they are not able to solve that problem, then we don't use that. So one of the problems is imaging, right? Because in jewelry, if you make it too big, they feel ki, the jewelry looked bigger, but the actual jewelry was smaller. But if you make it too small, they can't make out the detail. So this is a permanent problem for us, right?
Yes.
And every time there is a new technology, we see whether this technology can solve this problem. But if it cannot solve that problem, then we don't use it. So I think while technology is great, it has to solve the problems that are relevant for the jewelry industry. And whatever will work, we will obviously very, very quickly adapt to that. So there are many things which have happened in technology which are useful for us, which we do use. Technology has allowed very, very good voice to text translation. So we make sure that all our conversations are analyzed to make sure whether we are giving a good experience to our customers or not. That is one way in which technology solves a certain problem. But today I don't have a use case for metaverse, for example, which is why you would have not seen CaratLane do anything in the metaverse, because there is no use case for that. There is no problem which I am aware of which metaverse solves for us. So I don't want to invest in metaverse so that people feel we are great. But
something that is going to be the future, anyways, metaverse.
I don't know. We will invest in it when we see that it is solving a problem for us, because I think the problems of the customers will not change what customers want, right? In terms of design and experience. Technology, if it can enhance it, then it is great. Otherwise, just because there is technology, you can't use it.
Yeah. But something that we'll speak in the future about meta and other things. But 5 years down the line, where do you see CaratLane?
We feel that there should be at least many occasions in customers' lives where the moment they think of celebrating that occasion, they should think of us first.
Okay.
And we should have a store for every customer who wants to buy. They should be able to go and have that product available for them within 24 hours in every part of this country, and hopefully in many countries in the world.
So every occasion, every part of the country, every customer. This is what you see for CaratLane in the next 5-10 years.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. Avnish, final question is, what is your advice to the budding D2C brands across, not only in jewelry?
I think the first thing is that you have to have a great product which your customers love, and they want to buy it again and again, and they want to talk to other people about it. If that is not happening, then you still need to keep working on that.
Okay, so product is the core. For
technology and marketing can only enhance and multiply your business, but if you don't have a great product, then you first need to work on that.
Okay, so the core of success is product. That is the core for it.
Absolutely.
Technology and marketing are the supporting factors for enhancing the success. Yes. One more question that comes to my mind, Avnish, is from a segmentation strategy perspective. What do you feel is the right segmentation strategy for CaratLane?
See, one thing is that traditionally segmentation has been done demographically, and now they talk about doing segmentation psychographically, right? But like I said, you know very little about your customers, and even Google and Facebook don't help you too much in that sense. And we have seen the same customer once come and buy for his wife's anniversary, then they will come and buy for somebody else's gift, or they will come and buy a kid's jewelry for their niece. So their reasons keep changing, right? And we have seen that knowing the reason actually is more important than knowing the customer. But but we have seen that there's a certain type of customer who appreciates what CaratLane does in terms of the design, the type of jewelry, and the experience. And actually the best way to understand that comes from where these people live. So we see that these pin codes actually are the best way to segment, that where do customers, our customers live. Because what I've seen is that both demographically and psychographically, people live around people who are like them, because of an income level, the house which you select.
Yes.
You make choices of living in a place where you like your neighbors, right? So you have to be like them. We have seen that a lot of our customers are urban migrants, And you will notice in every city, urban migrants have these pockets, right, where they live. Like in Bombay, a lot of them live in Powai, for example. So if therefore you know that if I target Powai pin codes well, I will get enough customers over there because they are all, like each other in many ways. And those ways are the things which are important in terms of identifying which business are right for you. So, and this is true because there are also limitations of using the other segmentation ways. But one thing which can be used effectively and which works very well is the segmentation based on pin codes. Pin codes, and basically where people live tells a lot about them, and that's, I think, one safe thing which you can use.
I think this is one of the classic marketing insights. When we talk about segmentation, pin code as a segmentation, people have been using it over the years and decades, but from a scientific perspective also, what Avnish, this is a classic insight that, you, especially in your category, pin code as a segmentation strategy is something which is extremely powerful. I think that's great. Thank you, Avnish Anand, co-founder and CEO of CaratLane, for us, joining us today at the D2C Dialogues. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure for me also. And thank you so much once again for having me here, Ritesh. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.